Hello and welcome to Hardtalk India. For 40 years, the people of Tibet have struggled against what they call Chinese occupation, but they appear to be struggling in vain. During this period, the repression of the Tibetan religion, its culture and the language of the people has grown steadily worse. And although the Dalai Lama no longer talks about independence, but autonomy and self-rule, the Chinese government refuses to talk to him. Earlier this year, the Karmapa Lama crossed over into India, claiming that he could no longer live and study under Chinese occupation. Today, in an interview to mark the 41st anniversary of the Tibetan Day of National Uprising, I shall discuss these issues with the Dalai Lama. What is the future the Karmapa Lama faces, and has the time come for the Dalai Lama to reconsider his strategy of non-violence and possibly consider armed struggle as a way of regaining control of Tibet? Your Holiness, the Karmapa Lama has asked the Indian government for permission to stay and study in India, and you have also asked them to do the same. What is the response from the Indian side?
A formal response not yet come. Informally, unofficially, this is some of my old friends among the Minister of External Affairs. They indicated Karmapa most probably will allow remain in this country.
Can I ask, is the Karmapa looking for political asylum, or is he looking for something else?
How to describe? The main reason why he escaped, or why he left, and why he takes such a risk come out Tibet is you see, he wanted to serve Buddha Dharma and Tibetan people in spite young age, great enthusiasm about these things. So you see, he convinced that these goals cannot achieve if you remain inside Tibet. Under present circumstances, no possibility to achieve that. Therefore, you see, he decided, in spite great risk, he came out. So so mainly religious reason. At the same time, you see, Tibetan issue itself very much related with Buddha Dharma or spirituality. Therefore, there's also political implication, particularly in the eyes of Chinese leaders.
So religious asylum and political asylum are almost the same thing in his case?
I think so, yes, that's right.
How do you interpret the fact that the Indian government has not given you a formal reply for 2 months? Does that worry you?
As just I mentioned, you see, unofficially, you see, there's some green indication there, so no problem.
But they haven't given you an official answer. Does that worry you?
Well, sometimes it happens like that. But the reality is more important than the word.
The Indians say that they are worried that if they give asylum to the Karmapa, this could have implications for their relationship with China. Do you understand that concern?
So certainly, the government of India, of course, you see, usually I always express or describe the government of India's policy regarding China, the People's Republic of China in general, particularly regarding Tibetan issue. Usually I describe over-cautious. So sometimes I, directly, express to some of my old friends, in the ministry, as well as some ministers also, I express, their position or attitude is a little over-cautious. And so according to that sort of policy, they're too much sort of, I think they would say, sensitivity or cautious. So, okay, that's understandable.
The press says that there is one other area for sensitivity. The press says that members of the Karma Kagyu sect, Shamapa Rinpoche in particular, have said that the Karmapa is a Chinese stooge. They say that Ugyen Trindli Dorji has come to India with Chinese connivance to take back the black hat and to take back the musical instruments that are sacred to the previous Karmapa. How do you respond to that?
I think the best thing is eventually the media people should have direct sort of contact with Karmapa himself. Then all these things become clear.
Can I interrupt you? You are convinced that he is not a Chinese stooge?
Fully, no.
Fully convinced?
Very sincere, very sincere.
So if at the end of 2 months or 3 months...
And also, my sort of judgment also is a basis on last few years, his behavior or his sort of mental attitude in Tibet, last few years. The Tibetan public, particularly in the Lhasa area, is a public witness. This young Karmapa is very tough and very sort of, I think, spiritual-minded.
So, Your Holiness, if at the end of the day the Indian government refused permission for the Karmapa to stay in India, what impact will it have on your relations with the Indian government?
Now, of course, many Tibetans, I think, feel great sort of disappointment, and also the outside world also, because the late Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa, they established many centers all over the world and many followers there. And this is, of course, morally, it is wrong, of course.
So this is a test case for the Indian government, isn't it?
No, I don't think. I don't think. You see, we already witnessed or experienced last 41 years in this country. The government of India, you see, concerned about Tibet, and immediately, you see, those Tibetan refugee community in this country, I think the Indian government they provided us the maximum help, in spite of their own sort of difficulties in the field of education and in many fields. In spite of that, government of India, as far as the Tibetan, look after Tibetan refugee community is concerned, I think maximum.
Your Holiness, there are reports that the Karmapa's parents have been arrested by the Chinese authorities, that they've been detained. Can you confirm these reports?
I also heard that, but I don't know. Still, you see, whether is that information reliable or correct or not, I don't know.
The Karmapa, of course, is just the most recent instance of what is happening in Tibet and how people are being forced to leave the country. What do you believe is the situation in Tibet for the 6 million Tibetans who still live there?
I described the Karmapa sort of escape. And also last year, another important one Lama from Amdo area, Kumbh Monastery, Lama Ajahn Lama. He also is similar. Usually the Chinese government treat him as a sort of progressive sort of Lama. But he also escaped last year. It says 98.
What do you
so these are, I feel, these are clearly some kind of symptom of some unfortunate things are going on inside Tibet. So you see, every Tibetan who have, I think, faith, genuine faith towards Buddha Dharma and towards Tibetan sort of spirit. You see, every Tibetan who have that kind of feeling always is disappointed.
You have used in the past phrases like cultural genocide. You have spoken about the danger of extinction.
That's right.
Does this mean that the repression, that the erosion of Tibetan culture and values, that the influx of Chinese settlers, that all these things are getting steadily worse? Is that the situation?
Right. That's right. That's right. So you see, both cases, you see, they are personally, they concern the Chinese officials, treated them quite well.
So in 40 years, Your Holiness, in 40 years, the situation has got steadily worse.
That's right. That's right.
Can I then put this to you, doesn't this also suggest that your policy of non-violence, of ahimsa, is not working?
No. Now, this is complicated, so complex sort of question. They oppose non-violent sort of approach. Sometimes appears less sort of dramatic, result or publicity or attractions from other. And unfortunately, some of the Chinese also, feel easier about our sort of non-violent approach. So the response sometimes is less. But other hand, I feel the firstly violent method is, I feel, outdated. I feel now in modern time, and particularly under the present circumstances, the using violence is always very much counterproductive and cannot solve the problem.
But Your Holiness,
so in particularly Tibetan case, because our non-violent approach, among the Chinese public, more and more Chinese now showing their sympathy, their the spirit of solidarity.
But
so
Your
this
Holiness,
is, I feel, long run, I think very positive result.
Your Holiness, in 40 years you've made some very important concessions. Today you are no longer calling for independence, you are calling for autonomy, for self-rule. Yet the Chinese haven't changed their position at all. They don't even listen to you.
Oh. This also, now I think, I feel, the government of People's Republic of China in mid-50s, under the leadership of Chairman Mao, their whole thinking becoming leftist. So that is I feel, the ultimate source or seed of the now few decades problem, not only inside Tibet, but also in China proper.
Can I put something
So therefore, now you see, their whole thinking, whole policy is not rational. Oh, now their whole policy is relying on using force. So therefore, you see, although the Chinese government, their top priority is stability and unity. But because their method is using, force, and also always telling lie, therefore, you see, in reality, counterproductive.
But can I put this to you?
So meantime, you see, they also, you see, lack of courage or spirit or political will, you see, to address the reality, realistically.
But
that's the problem.
But isn't there a deeper problem, Your Holiness? Non-violence works with an opponent who has a conscience, who cares about public opinion. The Chinese authorities, when it comes to their treatment of Tibet, don't seem to have a conscience. They don't seem to care about public opinion. That's the problem you face. The world is on your side, but the Chinese don't care.
Yes, that's right, very right. But often it's my Indian friends, see, sometimes I have this argument. When Mahatma Gandhi is fighting for freedom, India's freedom, yes, the British imperialists, bad. Still, there is independent judiciary, the freedom of speech. Now, in our case, not that. So, you see, it is exactly, you see, it is true. It's a very difficult situation. However, as just I mentioned, our approach, firstly, non-violence, secondly, middle way, not asking independence or separation. Therefore, among the Chinese intellectuals, the Chinese public, at least those who are aware of the true situation, they year by year, more support, more sympathy. Therefore, I feel even though the totalitarian government, the time changing, therefore, you see, one day they have to face the reality.
You say one day they have to face reality, but the Chinese say that the Dalai Lama is nearly 65. Sadly, one day he will not be with us. When he is gone, the Tibetan struggle will fade away. They say time is on our side, we can wait, because in the end, the Tibetan struggle will fade away when the Dalai Lama leaves.
This, I think, you see, totally mistake conception. I think, firstly, you see, Tibetan issue is not Dalai Lama's issue, or issue of one person, or one institution, or one generation. A generation who have faith, or Buddhist faith. No. The Tibetan issue is 6 million human community. And that human community also is a long history and sophisticated, long culture, sophisticated culture, deep culture, and culture which something very relevant to today's world. Therefore, there is the Tibetan spirit. Now look, within my lifetime, now already few generations now already is taking place inside Tibet. But the Tibetan spirit, the younger generation, even more stronger.
You talk.
Therefore, yes, it is true. Now, within next few decades, I will go.
Your Holiness, you talk of the younger generation. Many young Tibetans who are members of the Tibetan Youth Congress are saying the Dalai Lama should now consider some form of armed struggle, some form of armed resistance. What do you say to them?
They're short-sighted.
They're short-sighted?
And too much emotion.
But if non-violence is taking...
I always have some argument with them. But you see, the youth organization, as an organization, you see, as far as non-violent principle is concerned, they also support. But then you see, regarding the issue, independence issue, you see, they completely sort of disagree with my approach. I approach is middle way, not seeking independence, but genuine autonomy. You see, they very much criticize right from the beginning. You see, this is wrong. You see, Tibetan historically have the right to claim independence. And also, you see, that under present circumstances, majority of Tibetan people do not want to remain under Chinese control. Therefore, you see, on the basis of right of self-determination.
So you're saying to me, Your Holiness, that even if it takes another 20 or 40 years, the Tibetan people will remain non-violent in trying to regain control, trying to regain self-autonomy in Tibet. You will remain non-violent.
Now, so long I carry this sort of responsibility, certainly I committed fully.
And after you?
Non-violent.
And after you?
After me, I don't know.
Okay, a lot, Your Holiness.
But Tibetan spirit will remain. And what method will follow, that's up to them.
A lot, Your Holiness, depends upon this question: will there be another Dalai Lama after you? Sometimes you have said there may not be. Sometimes you have said the decision will depend upon the people of Tibet. Let me ask you openly, do you think there will be a 15th Dalai Lama?
That depends on circumstances. Now, as early as 69, is one of my statements, I made clear the very institution of Dalai Lama, whether should continue or not, up to Tibetan people.
What is your opinion?
People will
what is your
decide.
opinion?
My opinion. This is Dalai Lama institution is now more than almost, I think, 500 years. Then since this institution become the head of both temporal as well as the spiritual, then I think last 300 years. Now I think they're quite enough. So therefore, now 92 is another sort of my decision, and also made public. As soon as time of our return, or day of our return come with certain degree of freedom, then I will hand it over all my legitimate authority to the local Tibetan government. That local government eventually should be elected democratic government.
So when
I already decided.
So you're saying when you return to Tibet, you will stop being the temporal head of Tibet.
That's right.
You're also saying that the spiritual position of the Dalai Lama after 500 years, enough is enough.
Oh, yes.
You think that there should be no more Dalai Lamas, in your opinion?
That's up to Tibetan people. From my side, no need at all, any effort to preserve this institution. Institution come, go. But the nation will remain, have to remain. And nation's unique cultural heritage must remain as a part of world culture, world spirituality. I feel it's Tibetan culture, it's Tibetan spirituality have potential to make a contribution for humanity, and particularly indirectly towards the millions of young Chinese brothers and sisters, I feel. So it is really worthwhile to preserve our cultural heritage and spirituality. So that's my main sort of effort.
I understand. Let's briefly, Your Holiness, talk a little bit about your own life. You were born on July the 6th, 1935, to a family in northeastern Tibet.
Yes.
I believe it was a peasant family.
Right.
What sort of background was it? Could you explain?
Generally, my village, very remote area, and my family basically was poor peasant. peasant and uneducated. But then, it's a very strong faith, Buddhist faith, in spite from the young age, you see, in our family, you see, we use more broken Chinese rather than Tibetan. Because you see, my birthplace, there you see, already this is some Chinese.
So you grew up speaking Chinese?
Yeah, a little bit. But broken Chinese.
Chinese.
That broken Chinese is could not use when I visit China. Speaking.
You were recognized as the Dalai Lama when you were 2. You were enthroned before you were 5. It must have been a major change in your life.
That I don't know. Because of the name, whether it's some change or not, I don't know. Obviously, my sort of training, way of training, you see, study Buddhism from young age, and with, you see, the great learned sort of respectful sort of teachers and the learned which surrounded me, that certainly, you see, the influence in my mind.
You grew up in the Potala Palace, surrounded by elder lamas and courtiers. Did you miss the company of young children?
Perhaps at the beginning, I think I remember is one very clearly. After reached Lhasa, few years, my elder brother lived with me. So we always play and with other elder people. Then after I think 2 or 3 years, some years, now I can't remember exactly, he then, you see, sent school in Lhasa. So then, you see, we departed. So at that particular day, still I remember, I very much sort of, what's say, sad, departed my, you see, elder brother. So since then, no sort of a player with, you see, young or same age.
Were you lonely?
But that, I do not remember that kind of feeling, because they used to see my entourage, or including sweepers, most of them, you see, uneducated and come from remote area, but very sincere, very faithful. And I think remarkable thing is they play as like, you see, my own sort of age. So when we play, they never show respect. Me, they play, compete me very forcefully. So sometimes they, because of they, you see, never sort of admit, you see, they are sort of, let's say, their defeat. They often, you see, defeat me. So sometimes I cry. so I think, you see, that, I think they create some kind of atmosphere, which is the intimacy, just equal.
Your Holiness, for millions of Tibetan people, you are like God. Yet at the same time, you are also just another human being.
Right.
How do you reconcile these two facts?
No problem. There's no problem. Even as Buddha Shakyamuni, you see, one way is we consider, you see, the Buddha. Another level is we consider as a human being.
Are you a perfect? Are you a perfect?
Passed away, huh?
Are you a perfect human being?
Oh, this word, perfect. The one time, you see, one journalist, you see, I use this perfect man, means I'm normal man. But then, you see, the interviewer, you see, got different sort of, what to say, the interpretation or something. So therefore, since then, I got some, you see, cautious with this word. So I usually describe, and basically, I introduce myself, simple Buddhist monk, no more, no less. And then a human being, very, very normal human being.
My last question, Your Holiness. Do you believe that you will see Tibet again before you die, or do you think you will end up dying in a foreign country?
Like many other Tibetans, we believe within my lifetime, certainly, I think almost certain, as you can see, my own country.
Your Holiness, thank you very much for a wonderful interview. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.